You are listening to the Enormocast.
The royal we here at the Enormocast would like to remind you that there's 3 great ways to get shit you need and get the Enormocast a little something as well. Bonfirecoffee.com. Enter Enormo at checkout for great small batch fresh roasted coffee. PeterWGilroy.com. Enter Enormo at checkout for amazing climbing inspired jewelry and accessories for yourself or that special belayer. In belayspecs.com, enter Enormocast at checkout to just say no to belayer neck pain. And the great thing about supporting these companies is they are the little guy. In fact, a couple of them are just one person over there at that particular little company. So you're supporting them, they are climbers, you're supporting the Enormocast, and you're getting great stuff. It's a win-win-win. Very rare in this day and age. So please consider supporting them, supporting the Enormocast, and supporting all our sponsors with your patronage. They're finally here, folks. The prettiest thing to ever be shoved in a crack. The new Black Diamond Ultralight C4. The featherweight camming champion of the world. 20 to 30% lighter than the old C4s, which means they're 20 to 30% more sick. The BD Ultralight cams are more lightweight than bailing off the nose because you ran out of baby wipes. They're more lightweight than that kid from Provo who fell in the campfire after 2 beers in Indian Creek. True story. They're the device that's oh so nice and the cam that can handle the slam. If you dream of climbing with different cams, you should wake up and apologize. So check out blackdiamondequipment.com for the specs on these little beauties, or head over to your nearest climbing retailer to fondle them with your own chubby knuckles. Put the cam down, sir.
Listen, where are you playing in town? Are you playing here?
We're doing the Enormo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
big
big
house.
place
We sold
outside
it
of
out.
town. That's a
Very
big
nice.
place. You sold it out. 20,000 seats.
You really should.
The hell are you doing? I couldn't sleep. I'm checking the ropes. There was a frayed end on your rope, and I'm cutting it out.
Bad weather. No, later, anytime.
Today's show is brought to you by Black Diamond Equipment, with support from Maxim Ropes.
And the fine folks at La Sportiva.
And now back to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Enormocast. This is your host, Chris Kalous. It is August 11th, 2016, about 8:30 Mountain Daylight Time. This is episode 110 of the Enormocast, a conversation with big wall climber Cheyne Lempy. I was very excited to sit down with Cheyne. Cheyne, at first, actually wasn't that excited to sit down with me. We work it out, you know, not anything personal. He's a little uncomfortable with any sort of spotlight, and he was a guy who kind of reviewed the list of people who've been on the show, and yeah, he was a little intimidated. Not that every single person who's graced the Enormocast studio is some superstar, but there's some heavy hitters in that list over at enormocast.com. So anyway, but we got over it, and he came down, and we ended up kind of doing a little different tack with this one, in that we ended up talking about this film that he just made and that I saw at 5 Point Film Festival, the festival here in town. It premiered, and we kind of got sort of the backstory behind that. That was something I did intentionally because I felt like when I saw the film that there was sort of a lot going on behind the scenes, as it were, or there was more details. You know, the film's 15 minutes long. Their expedition was weeks. And so, you know, you kind of wonder about all the in-between you don't see on the videos. And the other interesting thing is that a lot of times when you have a little bit of a foot in the industry, or your finger is stuffed into the industry pie, as it were. I always love that metaphor. Anyway, yes. Yes, fingers and pies. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting because a lot of times you see a film, and if you know some of the people that either were in it or on the trip or made the film, sometimes you have an idea that things were a little different than what's being depicted on the screen. Okay, so sometimes that's good and bad. Sometimes you know sort of the real story that was not projected onto the screen for reasons that have to do with media and PR and marketing. I had no idea what went on between the shots in this one, but you could kind of feel that there was a lot of stuff going on and maybe some aftermath. So we got into it. We talked about the details. So the film is Haywire, and I don't know if it helps to watch it first or not. I'm sure it's too late because you guys have probably queued this up in your car or on the train to work or something, and you just aren't interested in stopping at this point and going and watching the film. I will link it at enormocast.com with this post, but it's easy to find if you just Google Cheyne Lempy or Dave Alfrey and Haywire. It's the name of the film. It's on Vimeo right now. You can watch the whole thing. Anyhow, that was kind of our game, but the cool thing is, and we'll get to this in a few weeks, is that I also have Dave's perspective, Shane's partner who was on the trip, and I kind of, again, did that intentionally. So we've got the two sides of this story, very dramatic story, a very hard trip. Going up to Baffin in the wintertime is rough. Okay, it's not easy up there, not easy living, and you have to go in there and climb in the wintertime so you can get in on the ice. So anyhow, Baffin Island, really cool. It also references Mike Lebecki, who was on a few weeks ago. Anyway, it's all coming full circle. So we'll have this all tied together with Dave Alfrey's episode that's coming up as well. And the rest of the interview's pretty surprising. The other half, I won't spoil it, but Shane comes clean about some struggles he's had. I think that you'll find surprising and maybe helpful, some of you out there. So look forward to that as well. And I don't really have much business, just cruising along here this summer, trying to get this thing done and raise up a little baby. The Enormo baby's doing well, for all of you that are concerned about his well-being here in Carbondale. Beautiful place to raise up a kid, and it's all going really, really well, except for I don't have a lot of time to myself. So we're still cranking out these episodes, though, and hopefully you guys are still enjoying them. And I think you're going to enjoy this one, too. The Enormocast is proud to be partnered with Sportiva. And here's the thing. There's only one shoe that has climbed the hardest routes on El Cap, including something called the Dawn Wall. And that shoe is the TC Pro, designed by Tommy Caldwell and produced in a hollowed-out volcano in Italy by blind Zoroastrian nuns. These are the shoes that our friend Hayden Kennedy once called crampons for granite. But the TC Pro is just one of so many legendary shoes in the Sportiva line. The Miras, the Testarossas, the Solutions, the Mythos, and something new called the Squama. What's a Squama? Who cares? It's Italian. So please support the Enormocast by going to Sportiva.com or your favorite climbing retailer to check out the full line of Sportiva shoes, and then quit screwing around and buy a pair and come play with the big kids. So I saw your film at 5 Point, Haywire. Okay, so how did you get into making some movie for everyone else to see? It seems like there's some footage in there like that looked like it was from previous things that you were just filming probably for your own good. But tell me about making this movie Haywire about Baffin.
A little over a year ago, the spring of 2015, Dave Alfrey and I went to Baffin Island. It was my first expedition to the Arctic, and we had a really crazy trip, and it was really scary, and I shot the whole thing and made a film about it and submitted it to 5 Point, and it premiered there, and now it's getting into a couple other festivals and stuff.
And why? I mean, what was that something you were into before in terms of filming, or was that? I mean, was that part of a pitch to sponsors? Was it, what? I mean, I'm always curious about these films. They're part passion project. Actually, they're pretty much all passion project. Because what are they gonna do besides go to some film festivals and get you some recognition and your sponsors some recognition? So was it a pitch? Was it something that you were just like into doing?
So rewind a little bit.
Okay.
So I was supposed to go on expedition to Baffin Island with Mike Lebecki.
Okay.
In like June or May of 2015. And right at like it was supposed to be myself, Dave Alfrey, and Mike going. And then about a month before, Mike wasn't able to make it.
Okay.
And so Dave and I are like, what do we do? Do we still go?
Don't ration your passion. I'm sure Mike told you to go, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
The time is now.
Yeah, the time is now. So anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
And so Dave and I we're like, okay, we are going to buy these plane tickets that are so expensive.
Right. What does it cost?
For like the plane tickets are like $4,000 a person
to get to where then you get on the snowmobiles. Okay.
Yeah, and that doesn't include like gnarly baggage fees and all that.
Sure.
Stuff.
Oh, right.
And so once Dave and I bought our plane tickets, we were just like, what did we do? At the same time, we're both like, I mean, we're so stoked. We've wanted to go. I mean, they say, I don't know who said it, but like climbers dream of climbing on big walls in Yosemite, and like big wall climbers in Yosemite dream of climbing on Baffin Island. Because just like infinite big walls, like up to 5,000 feet in the Arctic. Mm-hmm. I don't know how in depth you want to go into this.
We're going in depth, dude. This is the Enormocast. We go in depth.
Okay, and so so
it sounds like a little bit like you guys used Kelly Cortis's kind of method. He says that you basically like start climbing until you get so high you can't come down anymore. It's like the coward's way to go climbing. You guys did like the monetary version of that. Like, we do not want to lose the money on these tickets we fucking bought, so we're in. Like, we're getting on.
Yeah, well, no, we bought the tickets right after Mike.
Well, I mean, even so.
But yeah, we're in, and we're like.
It's like you pressed buy on the computer, and then all of a sudden your like heart was like in your throat, like, oh my God.
I know, that was the first turning point, because I mean, for like 2 years I was like actually like preparing. I was like, I want to go to Baffin Island, you know. And then I bought the ticket and was like, here we go. Right. And so that was sort of the beginning of like a little bit of a downward spiral, like. So then Dave and I, prepping to go on your first Arctic expedition to go big wall climbing is pretty massive. Mm-hmm. Like all the details and logistics and all the gear and the food and everything has to be like really unique and specific, and figuring that all out was like, I mean, we definitely like had some help. Like Mike was trying to, give us as much beta as we can, but you still just kind of have to like go for it and figure it out, And so then, right when I was leaving, so I had to drive, because I was living in Yosemite, working for the search and rescue team at the time, and I got a month off. I was going to start my season late to go to Baffin. And so I'm driving to Fresno from Yosemite, and then I'm like, my wife and I, we just got married, and we're sitting at like this Indian restaurant, and I'm like definitely like kind of stressed, but like trying to hold it together. Cause dude, it's scary, man. Like just thinking about going on a trip like that. And then I realized I had forgotten my passport. And so then I had a friend like drive it to me halfway, and I got that in like the middle of the night right before my flight. That was at like 5 a.m. the next morning.
Out of Fresno.
Okay. And then I'm like kissing my wife goodbye, and I'm like super emotional, and then I realized I like can't find my wedding ring, and then I lost my wedding ring, and then I missed my flight to go to Vegas to pack up like everything, pack up the whole expedition like a few hours before our flight.
Okay.
To
meet Dave in Vegas.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I missed that flight, and so Dave has to pack everything alone in 8 haul bags. And then finally I get to Vegas, and it's like 3 a.m. We have to get up in 2 hours to catch our flight to Baffin, and then we finally get on the flight, and then I've got like this little journal. I'm going to try to journal every day. And I write in there, this might have been the worst mistake of my life. And just like imagine going on like this, the biggest trip of your life, and that's kind of how it starts out.
Right.
You know?
You're not like.
And so it's like.
Well, what was Dave? I mean, Dave's pretty like monumentally psyched all the time. Was he the polar opposite of you?
I mean,
or were
Dave,
you guys both like
the super Dave is like so psyched, but he also definitely had some moments of terror.
Okay.
Of like where he's like, uh-oh, what are we doing? Like, oh my God. And we both had like similar experiences on the plane, and then after the plane I was like, dude, I was kind of like freaking out. He's like, me too.
Okay, good. That's good.
And so nice. We were in it, like we were definitely in it together, and it made it way harder that we didn't have this other person that had been to Baffin 6 times.
Sure, like that was your passport was going to be Mike Lebecky, who's like walks in and knows everybody at the outpost and like knows how to drive the snowmobiles and whatever else you need him to do. So
basically what that meant is this, everything was so much harder.
Right.
Like we get there.
Well, can I ask you a question about about Baffin? I've never actually talked to, I talked to Mike on the show, but we didn't get into specifics. So that's kind of when you said, let's go how in depth, because I think this is really interesting, especially because it's like a first expedition for you guys both, right?
He's been like to Alaska and like the Waddington Range, but this is like the first full on.
Yeah. Like, it's a big deal. So let me ask you that, the commitment level when you go to do something like what you guys were doing. You have a sat phone. There's a scene in the movie where it's not working, but you get it working. But even with the sat phone, what is the commitment of like, okay, somebody's hurt, what's the time frame? And what are the things that could get in the way of like anybody getting in there to see you guys?
Well,
how out there are you?
It would definitely be a few days.
Right. And it was, right?
Yeah. It's definitely not, you're not as remote as Antarctica, but for me, it was like definitely like the most remote I had ever
Sure,
found.
the deli's not like down there staying up until 10 on a Saturday night for you or whatever. In Yosemite.
And I know that there's like more involved places to go, but for me, it was like the most I could possibly
handle. Look, it's
handle.
up there. There's probably like jungles and things in countries where, it's going to be really hard to raise any sort of help.
Yeah.
But it's, as far as it goes, it's pretty out there.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, for sure. And it would definitely be like days before you could get out.
So you guys are there now.
Yep.
We can do this. We can go blow by blow. Okay. So you guys show up. You're at wherever the last human outpost is going to be, and you're like, all right, this is going to be super hard.
Yeah. We're having like we get off the plane, and this guy, Levi, picks us up, and he's like the person that will help you get your fuel, get the snowmobiles and the sleds to take you out there with all your gear and stuff. And so we get out there, and we're sitting in the car with him, and like it's the most different type of people I've ever experienced.
So this guy's a native cat.
Yeah. And you're just like, just imagine the type of person that like half the year they don't really have sun, and like they're just way out there, and you're just like, whoa. But at the same time, by the end of the trip, like you could definitely tell he cares,
Sure. So you're talking about like a super hard person, like intense and like no nonsense. Like
it's
when you
like
shut up, like a couple.
we're like, hey, are you Levi? What's up? How's it going? He's like, come. And we're just like, did we do something wrong?
We pissed off Levi.
And
already.
So we're both like, we're like, what's it going to be like? We don't know. We get off the plane. We're like, well, my snot didn't freeze as soon as I got off the plane, so that's good at least. And then we're sitting in this truck with him right before we get dropped off like some weird part of town where we're gonna like set up our tents because we can't afford a hotel because our credit cards are maxed out because we got like almost no funding for the trip. And then Dave's like, so what's the polar bear danger. And then he just like turns to him and he's like, it is very real. And we're just like, oh. Like we were expecting him to be like, oh no, like no big deal.
Just don't
but
leave
he's
your
like,
food out.
He's like, yep. Don't stay on the ice too long. Like get on the wall as soon as possible. We're just like, oh my God. And so we get out of the truck and like we're bundling up, putting all our down jackets on, and then like Dave can't get his feet warm, and we're like still in town, and he's like, we're just both kind of like, oh my God, what are we doing? But yeah, then the next day we go in and like through like the sheer terror that we were like feeling, like super overwhelmed, and we're like sliding into the fjord, and it's the most beautiful thing either of us have ever seen. It's just like so unbelievably amazing, just completely white and open because you're sliding in on the frozen ocean, and it's just like these huge towering walls that just like keep going and going and going. You're just like, oh my God. And it's so beautiful, and it was sunny out, and we're like, yes, this is gonna be so awesome. And then we get dropped off, and then right after we get dropped, it just started like nuking. Like super strong wind. We're like getting the tent set up, and then later that night we're like, okay, like maybe text our wives or whatever, and then we find out that our sat phone isn't working. We're just like, okay, here's like another thing that we got to deal with, you know. And then that's really scary because we have to decide like, okay, if the sat phone doesn't work, do we climb?
Right.
Like, what if something happens?
Right.
The only way that
could be like a deal breaker. But did you have a set pickup date?
Yeah, a month out.
Right.
And
so the option would be to just sit and wait for you guys to get eaten by polar bears and go crazy if you didn't.
Yeah, or you just like climb and hope that nothing would happen. But I mean, we're already like feeling so out there, and then the sat phone. I mean, I know like people have been going there for a long time without sat phones, you know.
Right.
But I mean, for us at that point, it was really, 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 really terrifying. And then somehow we got in touch with Dave's girlfriend because we could send outgoing texts, but we couldn't get anything. We couldn't make calls. We had tested the sat phone before and called like the test number, but it like it wasn't working. And so we finally get it figured out, and then we're both like crying in our like little base camp tent, like, oh my God. Just because it's super emotional, man. It's just like, I mean, Dave has like been on, you know, more trips like that, more that are more out there than I have. And I've spent two seasons down in Patagonia, and even like a full season with him down there, you know. So like, and we've climbed on El Cap like a ton, and so, you know, it's not like, oh, we're like way out of our elements. And I mean, I did everything I possibly could to prepare for it, but man, it was just so full on. Like you can't even like totally prepare for it other than just going and doing it.
So let's talk about the climbing real quick. So you guys are you know, it's like you climbed up a whole thousands of feet of choss to get to like a head wall, if I remember right. You guys kind of had this like big slab approach, or what was that all about?
Yes, there was like 1,000 feet of climbing, more or less. Like that was like less than vertical. It's like this big ledge, and then it was like 2,000 feet above there. You know, a mixture of the most incredible golden splitter like rock that you could ever imagine to like absolute nightmare.
Let me get a feel for this, because, you know, I used to A climb. I was a wall climber on El Cap and the whole thing. And I never, well, actually, no, I went up and climbed Proboscis, which is like, it's pretty remote. You know, it's not a snow and ice thing, which is nice. It's not as remote as what you guys are doing. But your story about the sat phone is actually pretty funny, because we all went up there and like got on the plane and got dropped off, and the helicopter dropped all our shit off and like flew away. And on the way up there, we had talked about getting a radio, because you can actually use a radio there to contact the lodge, which is like 90 miles away. And you know, I think we had to rent a radio from Warren, the guy that does the thing, and like it was one of those things like, yeah, we got to get a radio. Don't forget to get a radio. And of course, nobody was tasked with getting the radio. And I find it hard to believe that Warren, the guy that was like outfitting us, didn't say, hey, do you guys want this radio? So we ended up with no radio. So we were there for 31 days with no contact. Like no way to contact anybody. And, you know, I don't remember really feeling like that, like, well, we better be super careful because if somebody gets hurt. Because I was like just way more gung-ho than that. Like, hey, you're not going to get hurt, you know? It's like, whatever. I'm not going to be the guy. But we were bouldering one day, like in the middle, like 2 hours of sun between all the rain we got. And Chris like took this other Chris Ryder that was with me took this really horrible like digger into this and bruised and cut his thigh up really bad. And we were just, all of us were like kind of bouldering, and we're just like, this is over. No more bouldering. Like if we're going to get, like if anyone's going to break a femur, it's going to be bouldering, not like hate climbing up on the wall. So we all just kind of like skittered back to the cave and like started drinking again, you know? So, but what I wanted to know was like, are you at all able to enjoy the climbing when you were up on the wall? I mean, I just kind of get the feeling, because I've been in these situations where you're just like, I just need to survive this. And it's really hard to like break out of that and be like, this is interesting climbing. It's one thing to break out and look around and be like, I'm in this amazingly beautiful place. But were you able to be like, this is good climbing, or I'm enjoying these, whether it was free climbing if you did any, or whether it was aid climbing, like this is fun? Were you ever able to do that? Because for some reason when I watched the movie I was like, God, I don't know if I could actually ever enjoy myself. I would just be like, get this wall done, get this wall done, get this wall done, we're done with the wall, get down, okay, get out of here, get out of here. You know what I mean?
I think what made the trip so hard is because it kind of started off like so difficult, and like because like I had because I struggle with like anxiety and depression, and so it was just kind of like, and sometimes it's like goes up and it goes down, and just for some reason, you know, it was like on the down, and like right when we went at the worst possible time, you know. And it was like really, really hard, because I mean I had been, you know, training for this, and I had climbed like some smaller walls in Yosemite, like first descents. Like I had purposely climbed loose rock to get ready for Baffin Island, because I've heard about it. And you know, and so when we're out there, there was like, I mean, it was everything, you know. It was the most inspired I'd ever been anywhere. It was the most psyched on some of the most beautiful pitches I'd ever climbed, and it was also like the most terrified and the most like homesick I've ever been, and the most like I've never questioned like what I was doing more than when I was out there, you know. And so it was definitely like a mix of that, and you know, Dave, he's like just so stoked all the time. Even when he's not stoked, he's stoked. And so, you know, he didn't like, you know, struggle as much as I did with that. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely really, really, really amazing at times. And then other times it was just like heinous. And that was before the accident happened.
I mean, you guys are climbing on like horrendously loose rock.
Yes, so we climbed the route that we called deconstructing Jenga.
Okay.
And so we did it, and like the whole route like kind of leaned to the right, and so all the junk that we had to pull off is just like raining down, like away from our camp, away from our rope. And you know, we like climbed it really well and really safe, and it was, you know, the hardest route I had ever climbed. And so then we get down and we're like, well, we have time to climb left, and Dave's like, all right, route number 2. And I'm just like, oh my God, like how am I gonna do this? And I'm like trying to rally, I'm trying to get stoked.
Wow, man.
And Dave is like, all right, one rest day, we're going back up. And I'm just like, how am I gonna do this? Like, how am I possibly gonna do this? And so we have our one rest day, and then we like, you know, start racking up for the second one. So the second route that we started went off of the first 1,000 feet that we had climbed up to that big ledge. So the first 1,000 feet was this slabby terrain up to this big ledge, and this other one was this incredible beak seam that like just went straight off the ledge. That we weren't entirely sure that was going to completely go, but we were just going to go for it. And so Dave, climbs this amazing like 210-foot rope stretcher pitch. Or 230. I can't remember if we had 60 or 70 ropes. Anyways, it's rope stretcher.
Not that big a deal.
Yeah. He climbed this like amazing pitch.
I'll have my team fact checked it.
Yeah.
It's no problem.
Okay. But he climbed this like rope stretcher pitch that he said was like one of the most difficult and beautiful things he's ever climbed. Meanwhile, I'm sitting down there on the ledge in hell because I'm just like so smoked because I just spent almost 2 weeks on this other route, and I'm just so fried. I'm like trying to rally, trying to get stoked. All right, like come on, dude, you got this.
Well,
like, pull it together.
I mean, the partnership thing can get tricky in that sense because you want to be the guy that supports what he wants to do, and you don't want to be the guy that pulls the plug. And it's also what are my reasons for not wanting to go up? Why is it because I just want to be out of this uncomfortable situation? But at the same time, like something inside me was like, do not go up there. Like just something like this pit in my stomach, and then I'm just like trying to shut it out. And then, so then Dave, wraps down on this big ledge. You can take your harness off and run around. And so Dave is setting up the portal edge, 100 feet to my left while I'm jugging and cleaning the pitch. And so he's setting up the portal edge to bivy on. Like, it's like a big ledge, but it's really slanting, so you still want to sleep on a portal edge. And so I'm up there, I'm cleaning. I get to the anchor, and I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm worked. It's the first time on the whole trip that it had been cold because we were like kind of running low on food, and because we weren't eating quite enough. And then I'm at the anchor, and I'm crying, and tears are freezing to my glasses, and I'm just like, dude, what the fuck? Holy cow!
How am I gonna do this? I feel like a wreck. And then I'm gonna pull up the lead line, stack it up, so we're ready to climb tomorrow. And so I'm pulling up the lead line, and the wind is blowing around, and it blows over to the left and gets hung up on something. I'm like why? Like everything is like, feels like it's going wrong, And then I'm like, okay, I'm like flicking it, just thinking like, oh, my head, it's stuck in a crack way over there. And then as I was doing that, Dave, the haul line that he had trailed up when he was leading was whipping around too from the wind, so he ran over underneath me to tie it down. And we failed to communicate for that 1 second. I just barely tugged on the rope, and then it just unleashed this like huge block right above him, and I scream rock, and Dave looks up, tries to jump out of the way, and lands like flat on his stomach, and then boom!
Fuck.
Like right in the fucking spine, dude. And like right when it happened, I was like, I just killed my friend. My friend's dead. I mean, I'm usually like calm and collected, and like, I've seen some and experienced some like gnarly stuff, like being on Yosarid, but dude, I just like lost it. And then like I wrapped down to him, and he's like having to calm me down because I'm like freaking out, and he's like, I don't know what's wrong, but we have to get down right now. And so I lay him down on like a sleeping pad, and I'm like assessing his spine, like I'm an EMT, from being on Yosar. There's no sharp pain. He has sensation in his toes. He has, but then there's like this huge welt on his back, and it.
Good thing he's so sturdy.
Dude, he is sturdy. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get you like some pain meds. Like we have to get, like whatever happens, like if we have to call for rescue or whatever, like if like this is, whatever's going on, like we need to get down. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give you some pain meds, and I give him some, some pills, and he's like, dude, these are antibiotics. It's like, read the label. I was just like, oh my God.
The EMT. It's like, oh yeah, thanks, sorry.
So, but then
you
like,
could have had an infection.
So then, yeah, it was just barely enough pain to where he could like walk around, and we like, we rigged his harness so it wouldn't weight that part of his back that it like hit. It was like just to the left of his spine. And so we get down to the ice, and then we're gonna try to call and get a pickup to get out of there earlier, and then find out that we had the wrong number to call Levi, the guide, to come back and pick us up.
You've got some other guy's number? Or
so like, no, Levi, he's like, here's the emergency number,
right.
Here's my number, here's this. And we're like, okay, sweet. I wrote it down on my phone, we had a paper, and it was like, it come to find out it was like the wrong area code, which took us 3 days to figure out, so then we're having to like...
So wait, okay. So you're like in this dire situation, or although it seems like it probably calmed down. Like
it calmed down, but
he's not like, his spine is not severed. But you're in this situation, and now you can't, like, you have 3 days of like just wondering how you're going to get out of there.
Yeah, so we get down to the ice, we try to call Levi, and we don't know what's going wrong. Mm-hmm. And so then the only other person that knows how to get in touch with Levi is Mike Lebecki, and so I have to call Mike and tell him what happened and ask him to call Levi.
So you're calling him in Salt Lake?
Yeah.
All right.
No, I think he was at 5 Point.
Oh, okay.
The year before. Okay. Which is kind of ironic.
That's awesome. Yeah, totally. Hey, Mike, what are you doing? I'm in Baffin. We need you to call Levi for us.
Yeah, and so, yeah, and the Mike's like, I don't know why, like, this is his number, we don't know what's wrong. And so then Mike, calls or texts us back and is like, Levi's like not in town, he's out hunting. And so, yeah, then, 3 days later, we get picked up and eventually find out that we had the wrong area code.
So how long of a drive out to there is it?
It's like 5 hours on a snowmobile.
Right. And you got pulled out.
Yep. And so Levi came in and got us out. Uh-huh. And we Dave was in like a ton of pain, and it wasn't like life threatening, and it seemed like we could get home before he went to the hospital,
Right.
Like we didn't know like what we were going to be able to deal with there in Clyde River, like this tiny little Inuit town. And so, come to find out, like, nothing was broken, and Dave was completely fine.
Super sturdy.
And we got, like, super, super, super lucky.
Right.
And it was like the most terrifying experience of my life, And, yeah, it's like, it's really interesting looking back now, because I'm able to see parts of the expedition that I wasn't able to see like when it was happening, or I realized because I was so overwhelmed, or because of my mental disposition at the time, it didn't allow me to be present what I was doing. And that's, I think, part of the reason that I made the mistake of, I'm just gonna I'm whipping the rope, I'm just automatically going through the motions of big wall climbing.
Right.
Like I've done, 40 times or whatever. But yeah, just because I wasn't able to be present and in the moment all the time there, I was making these little mistakes that I wouldn't never ever make, And so it was definitely a huge wake up call for me to know that I need to get my mental stuff together, because goes into every other part of my life and my marriage and my climbing and everything, Yeah, and then after that, I was like, oh, well, I think I'm going to make a film about it, because I shot the entire thing. Mm-hmm. And so...
That was my question.
Mm-hmm.
You just answered my question. So did it cure you? Are you over expeditions, or have you managed to I mean, what's your feeling about it? In the film, I mean, and I don't, you know, it's like there's some writing involved and you express all this stuff in the end. And that's kind of one thing I remember thinking, like, well, you know, dude's like super into climbing and you know, what's going to happen now? Would you go back? Are you interested in that kind of thing? Because it sounded pretty bleak. I mean, the way you leave the film is pretty bleak. Like
Yeah.
questioning everything or all that sort of thing. So where's your mind on it now? Not on that trip, but on, you know, is this in your future still?
Yeah, I don't know. I still keep having bad dreams about Baffin Island.
Okay.
So I feel like once those bad dreams stop, I feel like I might be able to go back if I was in the right, you know, mental position with the right, you know, team. You know, a team of 3 would be really incredible out there. And yeah, like after that trip, I've kind of been burnt out on climbing, just because it pretty much just like really made me question like what's my motivation for this and why what's the point? Like why would I go out there, you know?
Right.
But at the same time, even though I was burnt out and haven't been doing as much climbing as I have in the past, you know, like I feel pretty lucky that I was able to work on like my creative projects with, you know, making films and shooting photos, and so that allows me to like still be in like the community and be in these beautiful places, but not deal with any of the gnarliness, you know.
Right.
And so
it's interesting. I mean, my sort of question that was about whether you ever enjoyed the climbing. I mean, it was definitely a question that was sort of seated in some of my own feelings about it, you know, because I sort of gave up big wall climbing, and I was the same way, and exactly what you said, like you climb enough on El Cap or whatever, and you start to think, okay, well, this is just the thing I'm doing till I do the next big thing. Yeah. And I kind of burned out on it sooner and decided I wasn't that into it anymore because of that feeling of like, well, what is, I mean, the point is not, I guess it's sort of cliche to say the point, because I mean, climbing is a little bit pointless, but when you're not even like really enjoying yourself, because even the last couple walls I did in Yosemite, I was like, you know, gearing up at the base, and you know, it was like I was punching the car, and I'm like, okay, here we go, I'm gonna climb this thing. Am I like super stoked to climb it? No, it's just the next hardest thing. It's like what I envisioned I would get to climbing, where I'm climbing these A4s and A5s and stuff. Yeah. And yeah, it was definitely like this moment of like, well, fuck. Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's amazing, and I'm glad I did it, and it had all these other effects, but I don't know, it seems like to plug back in the way like Mike does is pretty unique, actually. And with that in mind, you know, I know like a lot of folks that have gone to Baffin before you, and you know, a lot of them, they're not climbing anymore, as far as I know, or they've moved on to these whole other things in their lives. Yeah. Because I mean, geez, I mean, Lebecki's he's a freak, and I don't think, I mean, I'm not insulting the guy in any way. Yeah, no, he's just like, he knows it. He's built for it. Yeah. You know. Yeah, I think so. One thing that I struggle with is I enjoy like pushing my personal limit, and I enjoy like, you know, progressing, but I don't like that the progression is leading into more and more danger. Exactly. And I'm just like, that's exactly like, right. So that means like the better I get, the more dangerous I get. Absolutely. Yeah, that's A climbing, man. And so, and not just the grades, but the places. Yeah. You know, it's like, okay, well, we did it here. Let's go to Antarctica. Let's go to like, I mean, let's go climb under the ocean. I don't know what's next, but like, so I don't know. I mean, but at the same time, like I want to go to these places so bad because I'm so inspired to make more films and photograph, because it's so unbelievably amazing, you know. And so I think if I did go back, it'd be in a different capacity, where I'd be in like more of a storytelling role, you know,
but still be a part of the team. But like, man, my desire to go climb A5 on Baffin is like non-existent, you know?
Right.
But to go on expeditions with a really amazing group of friends and go learn about these beautiful places and, you know, hone our crafts, like that's really inspiring. But like the gnarliness is, I don't want to,
is it disappointing?
That. I mean,
because I know, like, at least again, the way that I progress, like, you envision yourself this certain way, in that, like, I will be the guy that will do this, you know?
Yeah, it definitely, like, part of it is disappointing because I know that my acceptable level of risk is lower than it used to be before. And I mean, I know this usually happens to people that are older than me.
Like who, for example? Is there anyone you can think of that?
But no, it's just kind of like
today that
it's kind of like a progression. And I think, I mean, I'm still young and I'm still already like reeling it in a little bit, you know, because like I don't want to die climbing. It's not worth dying for, you know. But at the same time, this life going to experience these amazing places with amazing people is like worth living, you know. And so I'm trying to find that balance, and I'm definitely struggling with that, you know. And yeah, I don't know, I'm still working through it. It's still something that like still weighs super heavy on me, you know. And even though like in the worst possible way, it was like one of the most incredible learning experiences I'll ever have, you know, like, but yeah.
And are you still working SAR?
No.
Okay.
I worked 1 year as a climbing ranger volunteer, and I got to go on a bunch of rescues with the team, and then spent 3 seasons after that, like working on the SAR site in the valley, and then now I'm just like freelance photographer and filmmaker.
Okay. And so it's like we're well into this, and sometimes I start here, so I don't want to get super detailed, but a little bit of a path. You mentioned anxiety, depression. Have you struggled with that like your whole life when you're a kid?
I mean, it's really interesting because like, so it really started affecting me like when I was going to school at CU.
Okay, so
Boulder.
College, right?
But now looking back, I'm like, man, I've had anxiety like my whole entire life. I mean, I can remember like being a little kid crying because I was worried that I was not going to get this remote control car for Christmas. You know, like just like that type of worrying that I still worry about, you know. And so I'm definitely like trying to work through that.
Did you get it?
I did get it.
Okay, good. That's good. It's good.
But it's just,
good parents.
Yeah, it's really interesting to like look back. I'm like, man, like this is something I've dealt with for a really long time, which makes it really hard because it's like a lot of stuff I got to go through, you know.
So with climbing, you grew up in Denver?
I grew up in Aurora.
Oh, in Aurora. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Denver suburb for folks who don't live in Colorado.
Yeah. So I lived there for most of my life, and I started climbing when I was 16. When I took this class in high school called Adventure Education.
Okay.
And these, my teacher was like, all right, kids, this is big wall climbing in Yosemite, and these are climbers sleeping on a portaledge. And I was like, what? And just blew my mind.
That was like day one?
That was like, yeah. When I was like,
right.
I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard of. And then for my 16th birthday, I got a haul bag and some quick draws.
Really?
Yeah.
A haul bag and a set of quick draws. You're on your way.
6 quick draws.
Nice. Perfect. You're done. You're good to go. If you're Hans Florian, you've got enough to do the nose there.
Yeah. Yeah, and then...
What was it about it that like clicked into your life once you started actually climbing and not just seeing pictures of kids or people on portaledges and stuff like that?
I think it was the first time that it was my own thing that my parents weren't like forcing me to go do, you know, like I played soccer all growing up, and so that was kind of something I had to go to do, and it was sort of mandatory. But then when I found climbing, it was like my own thing. I didn't know anyone else that climbed, and I was like, it just opened up like this whole world, and I got connected to, like with my buddy Mike, like right away when I started climbing, and he's like, all right, kid, come with me, we're going to Eldo. And I just spent like a whole summer like following him in Eldo, and it was just like the most incredible thing I'd ever experienced. And then went to CU because I was like, all right, there's lots of cool climbing in Boulder, and lasted about 1.5 years before kind of like my anxiety and depression got so bad, and I just like felt so aimless because I didn't want a single career that whatever CU could have given me. And that's when I dropped out. I got a grant to go to Patagonia, had like an incredible time down there, met my future wife, started working in Yosemite. Now here we are.
Oh, here we are. I guess that's a nice brief kind of rundown of getting you to Yosemite and getting you on these big walls.
Yeah.
And are you a soloist?
Yeah. I don't know what that means.
Well, in terms of, not just with or without a rope, but.
I've soloed a dozen routes, a dozen big walls in Yosemite. I've soloed El Cap 5 times.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And what do you think that brings to the mix?
I think like the first time I soloed El Cap, I think it was like me wanting to prove to myself. Partly it was like one motivation other than just being really inspired by the idea of doing it, was to start at the bottom by yourself and make it to the top by yourself, like only with your skill and your own willpower. And yeah, it was pretty incredible. I soloed the Zodiac in a day.
Oh, just in a day.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was the first one.
That's the way to go, right? Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess sort of moving into the end here, what do you think climbing looks like for you now then? You talked about working with film and making movies and stuff like that, but what about personally?
Well, yeah, like I was saying before, like I've been pretty burnt out, and then for the first time in over 1 year, like this weekend, I was climbing out at Eagle Lake Cliff in South Lake Tahoe, and it was like the most fun I've had since probably Baffin Island. And it was like, because since then, I don't know, there's definitely some sort of like PTSD going on with the accident that happened on Baffin. And so like every time I go in, like climbing is somehow related to stress and anxiety and all that. And so it's been like really difficult because it was like this one thing that gave me freedom, and now it like was doing the exact opposite, But then I had like, it was super awesome to go out with some really good friends and climb these like really, really awesome cracks in South Lake. And then today, it's kind of ironic, I just was able to have a clinic with Arno Ilgner. I think I'm saying his last name right.
Ilgner, yeah.
Yeah, he's like the author of The Rock Warrior's Way, which was like, has been super influential for me since I first started climbing. And so I got connected with him, and I just had like such an amazing experience with him today, and I'm like really, really inspired to, start climbing again. And yeah,
what did he tap into?
Kind of the reason that I've been having such a hard time climbing is like I'm scared to fall. I'm scared of, like, I'm just a little bit paranoid of everything after the accident. And today it was really about paying attention to being in the moment. So the main idea is attention in the moment on the task. And because sometimes when I go climbing, like everything is, my mind is spinning and there's all this anxiety and blah, blah, blah. But today was just like, no, like we're going to practice falling, and like you're going to be present, and you're going to notice all the things that you see. You're going to notice like your breath. You're going to like all these things when you fall. And so we're like practicing falling, or these like little things that he's been able to tap into that have been really incredible to like help work through some of those fears and stresses that have been debilitating for me over, not just like over the past year, but since I first started climbing in Yosemite, And so I feel super lucky that he's kind of willing to, work with me a little bit and try to.
Did you, so is he like, were you guys, in terms of the clinic, you've discussed all this stuff with him?
Yeah.
In terms of like, this is what I'm going through.
Yeah,
okay.
Totally. I sent I sent him an email. I was like, dude, I don't know. 'Cause I mean, this, like, even this summer, I'm like, man, am I ever going to climb like I used to? Like, am I ever going to climb again, you know? And then I just like sent him some random emails. Like, I don't know if this will get to him or anything, but I was like, hey, like, this is what I'm going through. Is this something that I might be able to work on? Mm-hmm. And then, we were able to connect today, and it was like so inspiring, and I like feel like totally rejuvenated, and I feel like I'm like kind of glowing because it's like this huge thing that, like, this huge part of me that's been missing, you know? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm stoked.
As you were sort of coming up climbing, and especially in Yosemite, and, you know, your name, it's popped up. There's been people that have asked me to have you on the show, and, you know, it's here and there this kind of like big wall hot shot, and I know that's like nothing that you've ever wanted, but, you know, your name comes up and with some of these ascents. Were your friends and were your partners and stuff aware of these struggles, or was it something that you just kind of kept to yourself?
Yeah, one thing that's really hard about it is it's really, really hard to talk about, even with my wife. It's just like something that kind of like makes you like be super introverted about it, and like it's just like this cyclical thing in your mind. And definitely, like, some of my climbing partners like know about it, but, you know, others, it's really hard to talk about, and only certain people that I can open up to.
Well, you just opened up to the entire Enormocast.
No.
Well,
no, but at the same time, like, I'm okay talking about it because I do think there are people that struggle with it, and like, I hate feeling like I'm so alone, but I don't think I am, you know, and I think there are more people that deal with it, and I wish that it was, you know, if someone has an ankle injury, they're going to post on Facebook, hey, what is this someone done for?
Shit. Yeah, you're right.
You know, and like, there's this other thing where it's like, you look at my Instagram, you're like, oh, Shane's cool, he's psyched, and I'm like, actually, I'm kind of dealing with a lot, you know?
Right. Yeah, and it, you know, again, some of the things you said, like, just remind me of moments, and, you know, when you said you got off the plane and, like, or at some point you both admitted to each other how freaked out you were.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had climbs where, yeah, you're not wanting to be the guy that says, like, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
And we need to go down. And so you're just like quietly dealing and hoping you're not like showing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like if you have a really good partner or whatever, it's like sometimes there's a little mild competition, and like who, you know, and I've had those situations exactly like you said, like on the painted wall, on the Serpent in the black with my buddy Rob. I was just like finally like, I think we're done. Like, I think we have to go down. And he was instantly like, yeah. He's like, I wanted to go down like 2 pitches ago, you know, like both of us were just like, the other guy has to break, you know, like, and as soon as we said it, we're like, let's get out of here, you know, and down we went, and lo and behold, like, I don't know if it was the same year, early next year, like a whole pitch of the thing fell off. Because we were both like talking about how it just feels weird up here, you know.
Yeah.
Like, so who knows what we were feeling, or.
I mean, I'm definitely like trying to tap into more of that gut intuition, and you know, I want to be. I mean, it's hard for me to like communicate like with my partners about that stuff.
Sure.
You know, but I think it's important. Like, you know, the next trip I go on, I want it to be with like really close friends that, you know, that understand that side of me. And at the same time, like, the thought of me being able to go on an expedition and be able to have like my mental situation straightened out,
right,
and to be able to like feel free like while climbing is like, I mean, and while being able to document it is like the dream, you know. I mean, it seems like a really huge task, because even if I go cracking, sometimes I get like sick to my stomach with like nervousness, you know, but it's something I got to work through, and I hope I can do it.
Well,
you know?
you're 25, right? Are you bullshitting me?
No, I'm 25.
Okay, good. You've been climbing what, for a decade now? About?
Yeah, a little less.
Oh, a little less. Okay. So, I mean, what have you? Because I have gotten emails from people. I've talked to people who it's like either they know they want to be a climber, but they struggle with these things. A lot of people struggle with fear even if they're pretty experienced climbers and falling and all those sorts of things specifically. But is there anything you could just, I mean, even in the short time you're obviously dealing with it, that you've like, is there anything you've learned like that you might tell somebody? Because the reason I also asked you if you told your partners or anything is because you're right. Like from the outside looking in, you know, you're this like wall climber that's climbed up Cap however many times and done 40 big walls, and you know, it's really easy just to assume you're just like Dave. You're just like ultra psyched all the time. Yeah. So what would you tell people, you know, sort of struggling with this on a serious level? Obviously, we're always all of us are scared some of the time.
Yeah. I think just knowing that like those feelings you have are real, and like you can do things to work through it, but like try to not beat yourself up about it, and like know that it's part of the experience, and definitely trust your gut feeling, and try to let other people's influences not affect you too much, you know, because it's hard, because then your ego gets involved and you've got these pressures you put on yourself. But if you don't want to do something, like if climbing isn't making you happy, like don't go climbing, you know. But I don't know, I think just knowing that, like lately I've even been like asking a bunch of my friends or like people that I look up to, I'm like, hey, were you scared up there on that route? And he was like, oh yeah. I'm like, okay. Or even I got to talk to Jimmy Chen for a little bit. So I was like, so were you like nervous before you went up on my route? And he's like, oh yeah. I was just like, it was like a huge relief, because I look up, I feel like something is wrong with me. Like all these people have what it takes and I don't. Right. But it's not true. No, it's, you know, it's part of that experience, and it's okay. And you know, Arno's book, The Rockwarrior's Way, is like a really, really incredible tool, and I definitely recommend anyone using it. But yeah, cool. Yeah. Well, that's it, man. You survived. You survived the Enormocast. You were a little reluctant. I know. I didn't want to come on the show. I'm glad I got you off of that. Yeah, no, it's good. Off of doing that thing with Arno. Because you walked in here like you were ready to go. Dude, I was psyched. I was like in full Zen mode. All right. Good. Thank you, Arno. And actually, I've talked to him about it before, and definitely need to get that cat on the show. Yeah, you should. I've always liked that book too. And if if you got some level of discontent with your climbing, whether it's fear or just scatterbrained or any of those things, man, it's a great resource, especially for trad climbers. Yeah, you know, because that's like being scared above your gear is just like, everybody's scared above their gear, man. Yeah, everybody, at least a little bit. If you're not, you're gonna get killed, I think. So yeah, right on. Well, thanks, Shane. Thanks for sitting down. Yeah, thanks so much. All right, folks, thanks for listening, and thanks to Shane for sitting down. Went really well, I thought. And thanks to Shane for opening up like he did. Looking forward to see what that guy does behind the camera again in the future, and climbing-wise. So, once again, we can look forward to Dave's episode, his partner Dave. The other side of that story, which is a different perspective in many ways. Because as we talked about in the episode, Dave has quite a bit different personality, but a lot of respect between those two guys, which I think reflects well on both of them. So look forward to that. Okay, folks, remember you can help out the Enormocast by going to enormocast.com and clicking on the Help Out tab. It's still run by you guys, not just in spirit, but financially as well. So head over there. You can work for me. Work it. Yeah, you can post things online about the show. Help out by writing a review at iTunes, and tell your friends. Please tell your friends. Also, I forget to remind people that t-shirts are available at adiak.com. That's ADAYAK.com. Check those out too.
All right, enough selling. Got to get on my way. It's time for the Enormo baby to go to bed. And just like I will tuck him in safe and sound and make sure he has everything he needs, treat your partner the same way. Look them in the eye, communicate, tell them that you love them, kiss them on the forehead, then look down at their crotch and check their knot.
You come far, pilgrim.
Feels like far.
Were it worth the trouble?
What trouble?
The teachers told me that's where it's at, so I